Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and live stream. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with David Finkelstein, founder and CEO at BDEX. What's new, David?
Hey, Jesse. Just the usual, keeping busy, putting out a lot of product. The team's working hard on some new product upgrades and some new products. So we'll have some announcements eventually, but just keeping busy. How about you? All good?
All good. Yeah, lots going on. I'm excited about some of your new products. I know, we've got anxious beta testers, so you got to keep me posted on that because, we've got people who want to join. It's super friendly for marketers, but I know I can't share. But anyway, we've got another excellent episode of Deconstructing Data planned today. So we're thrilled to welcome Marni Carmichael. She is the head of marketing at ImageSource Inc. Welcome to the show, Marni.
Hi, thanks for having me. Great to see you, Jesse and David. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. We're glad to have you on the show, and we're looking forward to this conversation. But first, I'd like for you, if you can, kick it off for us. Give our viewers and listeners a little bit of information about you, like what's your background, where you came from, and what led you to become head of marketing at ImageSource.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I came to head of marketing through product management. That was my initial discipline. I was a product manager at Kofax, which is now Tungsten Automation, for many years, and transitioned from that role to a product management executive role at Fujitsu in their US market division, mostly in document management. So a big background in document management, process innovation, converting content or information locked away into data that organizations can build action from. So ImageSource was a partner of mine for many years before coming to work here, and the timing just aligned. And it's been really cool to learn the other elements of the marketing discipline. Everybody has a lot of feedback. Everybody's a marketer. And so now I get to be a little bit more of the all skill marketer that I used to criticize a bit in my product management role. So that's how I got to ImageSource.
That's awesome. Appreciate the background. And we have a hello from David Wellborn. Let's jump right in. I know one of the first things we're going to talk about is one thing that's been on everybody's top of mind for everybody lately is AI, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things we're going to dig into today is where does AI success start, right? And data and content are the foundation. So I'd love for you to sort of kick this off for us and give our listeners a little bit of background and understanding about your feelings on this topic.
Yeah, so where we come at this topic from is really, like I had mentioned, my background in enterprise content management or document management. Foundationally, that's converting paper into data that systems can use, and then that's grown into driving workflows and onboarding information to start transactions, things like that. Like think about a loan application or a mortgage application. A lot of that is kicked off by submitting some information that is paper-based or PDF-based. So what that has done over many years in our customer base is we've unknowingly helped them build a real AI foundation. So we have a module of our platform called Content Store, where we, archive, store, apply records retention to enterprise content. And what we know now is that is the foundation for our customer partners' AI strategy. So all of that information can really be easily translated into a language model, a visual language model, or a domain-specific language model. And our partners are starting to be able to interrogate their historical information on transactions, on historical workflow, on their customer behavior, or we do a lot of work with state and local governments on their sections. They can get predictive about what's going to happen when, or if you need this service, you're likely going to need this service. So talking about gaining wallet share or increasing service delivery. And we're starting to enable them to start to interrogate that data too, to ask it questions, to generate new content for them, to help them. We've in the midst of a project right now, somebody I met at a trade show months ago, starting to interrogate their documents on policy, on contracts, so they can shorten the effort they put into creating new content and make sure, there may already be an agreement in place for this that simply needs to be renewed. There may be a documented policy. You don't have to go through all of that effort of making a new one. So that's an example of some of the ways we know content is that foundation. A lot of the work we do is in regulated industries, and so there's a lot of trepidation about large language models or open AI or those kind of public domain or shared language models, even when the organization talks about security or the technology provider talks about it. Some of our customers insist on being on premise or in their own private cloud, and we've been able to enable all of those environments with that foundation of content for AI enablement.
Yeah, it's an important topic, and it's something that I've actually been experimenting with doing internally for our business as well. Bringing all of our documents, all of our documentation, all of our content into a single AI so that we can query it at any time. And it's actually, starting to come in handy. You've seen it come in handy pretty quickly when someone's asking for something. And maybe it's someone's asking for a document that we've really never created before, but could easily be created with the content that exists in several other documents. And so with that, I'm able to literally just ask the AI, hey, can you create this? And it had all of the information necessary to create that document in 30 seconds instead of, having to ask somebody to put together a document and research and figure out where all the content should come from.
Yeah, the other thing I've seen just in the kind of user expectation gap of AI or even search and retrieval, it's been so much more valuable because you can start to ask about relevancy, about, hey, how often has this document been interacted with? Who was, potentially you could ask who was the last user if you had the right admin level for that. So just it brings really a layer of relevancy, not just utility. We talk about operational efficiency from AI versus personal productivity. And that's really the path that we're on with our platform and with our partners.
Yeah, that's awesome. We had a question, Jesse popped it up there for a second. Dave Wellborn's asking, what about RAG?
Yeah, RAG is part of that solution for us. So that's exactly how what is interacting with the domain-specific language model is that RAG repository. Yeah.
Yeah, it's creating, and this whole process is creating so much more efficiency in business. And I can only imagine, we're a relatively small company, but for, a company with hundreds or even thousands of employees and divisions all over the world, this can, save so much time. The process, I can't even imagine what the process would have been before with all of this hard documentation. Like you were saying earlier, everything was in a hard copy originally, right? And so how could you ever, the amount of time that it would take to get anything done with all of those hard copies and trying to track all of that down compared to what we can do today is truly unbelievable.
Yeah, simple. You think it's simple, but it's really powerful to be able to compare contracts. Like, hey, this is the contract we signed with this vendor 5 years ago. This is the renewal. Does it meet our current terms, our current boilerplate? What are the differences? What should I be aware of? Those are the kind of solutions we're helping our customer partners build and implement now.
Yeah, and then you can instantly see what are the differences, and then you can send over an amendment, have it create an amendment and send over the amendment, pretty fast.
Yeah. Or at least, it just is a hope. The goal is it just makes the human in the loop more efficient, right? And more narrowed, zeroed in on where the risks are, where the opportunities are, and that's better for the organization as a whole.
Yeah. And that human in the loop thing is something that we talk about a lot here, the importance of that.
Yeah.
You can't necessarily automate everything, right? And so having sort of that human factor to sort of, guide it and, have an understanding of what it's doing, and that human in the loop is really just getting a lot more done more efficiently.
Absolutely. And that's absolutely our methodology in deploying these projects is, again, how do we make the individual more productive? How do we help the organization use that most valuable asset, which is their employees, to avoid risk or increase revenue or increase efficiency? I think also the human in the loop element, I mean, it's going to help train, the vision that we all have for agentic AI, where there's some decision making that happens in the future, but there's got to be review. That there's just no other way to to avoid the hallucinations that we've all seen, or just you could have a bad actor interacting with your agent that takes it down the wrong road. So those are just some of the other reasons we value that human in the loop as well.
Yeah, definitely. I have to mention earlier, you both were talking about adding all of your documentation into an AI, and it is such a good idea. I did it for my own side business. I was starting something. I put all the sales documentation that I had as a solopreneur, like my sales script and objection handling, into an AI. And then when I had someone else helping me with sales, it was so easy to pull from all my Google Docs, pull from everywhere I had messily saved things, and help them understand what the heck I was even selling. So yeah, I have to say, like, that's one of the best things I ever did. And I highly suggest it. But, most of us use Google Docs or Microsoft, Drive, somewhere that we can save all our files and connect that and pull from it. And it's super helpful.
Yeah.
So thanks for mentioning that. But I guess I'll move us on to the next topic, unless, did you have something else to add, either of you?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's move on to content performance unlocked. We all want to unlock those numbers and get, our content to perform. So utility by the numbers. Could you kick us off with this topic?
Yeah. So what I think about here is how is this content foundation for your AI initiatives? How is it making your organization better? How are you going to measure that? And I think we've all probably heard some of those Gartner numbers or other analyst numbers about the number of AI projects that are not moving from POC to rollout, or the bloat in projected cost to actual cost. I mean, I've heard that the cost is like a 10x multiplier from original plan. And I've heard that, less than 30% of POCs move forward to enterprise rollout. So what we try to do, and what, just some of the best practices that are starting to emerge, or experiences that we get to share with each other in this space, is what are you going to measure with the AI? Some of those things for us have been focused on with our financial services customers and with our government partners as well. How are you reducing abandon rates? How are you getting more completed interactions with your customers or constituents? Those are some of the numbers that you can use to validate your POC or your AI use case as you're brainstorming that with your organization. How are you going to really measure that utility and that performance of the solution you're suggesting? Some of the ways that we see this starting to emerge too is, again, talking about like the reality of agentic AI emerging and becoming kind of a workflow agent that is connecting next actions, right? And so I think that what's happening there is that those protocols are emerging. We're starting to be able to at least prototype some agents communicating with each other and going through those workflow decisions together. I think that that's really exciting and interesting. I think it's probably still a little bit in the future. I was just reading a report from Salesforce University, how even internally at Salesforce, only about 35% of those agentic AI interactions are moving forward correctly or expanding out of their own environment. So I think there's just a lot to be learned there. And we really encourage the customer partners we work with. We've been doing some in-person it's basically an event, a workshop with our biggest customers to do that use case brainstorming across departments so they can get some alignment and priority. And part of that exercise is like, how would you measure the outcome? What are the numbers of this? And that's just been really helpful. And, we come away with, if we threw out 30 good ideas, we come away with 3 great ones that people feel really comfortable investing in. So those are some of the ways that we approach that. Like, what are you going to get out of this and how are you going to measure it?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think I always look at it from a goal perspective. Is it a SMART goal? And if it is, then it's measurable, right?
Yeah.
And so then once you figure out what the goals are, then you can figure out, what to measure against it. You're measuring, are you measuring time? Are you measuring, performance, some sort of KPI, whatever it is. But once you define that goal, then you can actually say, okay, well, if this is our goal, then this should be how we measure it and see if it's been successful or not.
Yeah, I think what's interesting in these AI conversations is that people get excited about trying it and seeing what it can do and brainstorming those ideas. But you have to start connecting it to ROI or efficiency gains in order for it to make sense in an enterprise level.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's probably one of the problems, right? When you look at all of these reports and people talk about how, it's, all these POCs, that everyone, creates, and they sort of go down one direction thinking that they're going to do something, but maybe it isn't truly goal oriented, or it wasn't really a SMART goal. And so when they get to the end of the rainbow and they're just like, well, okay, we've sunk this much money into it, but what do we have from it? I think that's sort of the biggest challenge people have, is that they're just not defining the goals first, and they're just diving right in and saying, okay, well, we know we have to do something in AI. Maybe we should just start playing with it, or maybe we should just start, creating content with it, or putting all of our content into it, or whatever you're doing. But if you're doing that without the goal in mind, then you're just throwing money away, right? And so I think that a lot of that has to do with all of those failed exercises have a lot to do with that, just not defining it properly.
It reminds me of the kind of early days of the iPhone and how that really transformed what consumer experience expectations were. Right now we have these expectations of, I should be able to click on it, I should swipe on it, it should autofill. Like, you have all these expectations now of a much more elegant user interface. But does that translate naturally to enterprise applications? Not always. And so I'm finding the same kind of conversations happening around AI. Like, we may have Copilot experience or ChatGPT experience. How is that aligned to a efficiency goal of an organization, or how is that aligned to a KPI that you can put dollars behind for a technology project? So I love the exploration phase of that kind of business to consumer, growth. Like, we're all consumers and then we become business decision makers. I love that cycle because that's where it's exciting and people are learning and adopting. But yeah, that's something we get to do, is then start to guide people out of that's great for writing content, and so let's take that to a use case. Where do you have inefficiencies? What's costing your organization money that we could potentially save?
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So moving, unless we have more to talk about here, I think it sort of moves very easily into the next topic, because that's marketing is one of the places where a lot of people are applying AI.
Yeah.
And and it's kind of one of those things where it's like, we've seen a lot of failed marketing efforts, whether it be content, everybody's seen like really bad content that was generated, whether it be, textual or images. Obviously we all know bad, that has a lot to do with the input, and bad data in is, gives you that garbage in, garbage out situation. But let's dive a little further. I'd love to get your feedback on this, and like, how can people approach marketing in an AI world today? that actually performs, and that they get out of it, the achievement, the goal that they're trying to get into it, and they're able to scale it.
Yeah, so I don't have all the answers here. I was hoping you guys would today.
Who has all the answers?
Yeah, I know. I think that one of the things, I don't know about you guys, that I find in marketing that's so unique is that really every task could have its own tool. And each one of those tools now become pretty AI enabled quickly. So I have been trying to make sure we're pushing our platform components, like we use HubSpot, and so I want to push that component to its limits in AI. And I understand already that platforms might be a little slower to evolve their AI capabilities, but I push my staff to explore those to their full potential before we look to acquire another tool, or kind of add to our tech stack and potentially technical debt, or just that inefficiency of moving around between systems all the time. There are a couple of tools, in my opinion, that were totally worth that kind of siloed approach. I mean, one of the things that has just again, we're smaller, and so we have to bootstrap a lot of stuff. And one thing that has just been such an efficiency gain for us is Descripted, that allows you to edit video from the transcript of the event, like, a webinar or other recording. That has just been such an efficiency gain for us. We do a monthly webinar, we edit it into clips, of 3 minutes, 1 minute, and that used to be a really heavy lift, and now it's easy. The other thing that I've used that I really like, that just really did outperform my expectations, it's called Sales Speak AI. And for smaller organizations that want to add an intelligent chatbot to their website, I've just found its performance to be excellent. We have our own platform agent that isn't built for WordPress websites. It's built for enterprise applications. And I find that SalesSpeak works as well and is just as sharp as can be. So some of those tools I find really worth it. I have been collaborating with other marketing leaders who have been, sharing how they're connecting these tools with with APIs. And I'm not quite there yet, but I've got my eye on it. That's where I'm trying to get to have these tools more completely integrated. So it's not, we don't need a person to do the next finish of the work. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see your take on this topic as well.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think that one of the challenges, especially when we talk about in marketing, like the example that I gave in content, I think that the biggest challenge there is that people are just going to ChatGPT and they're just saying, oh, write me this content, and it's not really trained for that. You know what I mean? That's why you get sort of the garbage that you get. So I think that the importance, it really comes down to doing a lot more training of the AI. And so, that comes down to there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can give extremely detailed prompts, not just write me, a LinkedIn post or write me a blog article about this. When you do that, you're sort of limiting your potential there by, the AI is going to choose the content that it uses, the information that it uses to create the content that's most readily accessible to it. Okay. And when it does that, you don't know where that content's coming from. Is it just coming from Reddit, in some discussion group or something? You want it to choose the best, relevant content information when it builds your content, whatever. So that all comes into one, how you prompt it and being extremely specific about what you do want and what you don't want. As far as information that's used, information that ends up in your content, the tone, all of these things. And then the other thing is, you can give it examples as well. So you can feed it some of your own content that you've written by hand previously, prior to AI, right? And so that it gets an understanding of like what you're looking for. How does your company speak to its customers, right? Because otherwise it's just it's gonna create something. And it's like you said earlier, like it's this complete hallucination of what it thinks that you need.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, one of the sort of simple things, and it's not, maybe it's not that simple just because it does take a little time and effort to do it. But once you do it once and you sort of build that training model to say, okay, this is what I want you to do. This is how I want it to sound. This is how we speak to our customers. And you go through that effort once, then you can, it makes it a lot easier going forward. So after doing that once, you can streamline the process a lot easier. Like I've done that for a lot of the content that I've put out on LinkedIn as well. And like I fed it transcripts from conversations like this, from our podcast, from webinars that we've done, content that I've written in the past, whatever it is. And then when I want it to write, write something for me for a new post, it does a really good job now. Because I've trained it with so much information about the company, about how we talk to our clients, about how we talk like this in real conversations. And so now, through that, initial effort, now I can pretty easily go in there and say, hey, write me a post about this. And I don't have to tell it anything else because it knows to use everything that I've already given it. And it does a really good job. So I think that investing that time and effort to do it, the training properly, can really improve, the output going forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And while you were talking, I was thinking about the really the connection between kind of the traditional marketing efforts. Like if you're small or if you're just beginning to lean into AI, or if you haven't just done this yet, consider like, are your brand guidelines up to date? Is your voice clear? Do you have those examples of content that works for your organization? Is your content measurable through the platform tools you use? And that is, to your point, that's the way to build those great prompts and to teach AI about you.
Absolutely. I really like using voice to text as well. It's not an end all, but just having a conversation with your AI and giving it some of your tone even helps. But yeah, we definitely take the transcripts from this show and it helps create, a lot of content, and it helps understand David's voice, things he says, how he talks about the product, like how David might respond to a data quality question, for example. But yeah, it's an easy way for a marketing team to take the executive's voice and be able to, disperse it much wider. Whereas before you might have waited for access to the CEO to get their perspective on something. Now it's just all readily available with easy content like this. But we did have a question that came in on the comments. Let me make sure we bring it up. So we have Katan asking, any case examples of high ROI projects or deployments in market? How are clients navigating?
So a couple of the ones that we've seen moving forward, I'll give you a government example, and then I'll try to give you a financial services or commercial example as well. One of the ones moving forward for us is with a state in the West who is looking to create a private language model or a domain-specific language model of all their legislation. So they have kind of a efficiency initiative to reduce duplicate legislation over, year over year. That takes a lot of employee time, it wastes constituent time by voting on things that have already been decided and by kind of fragmenting their standards. So they have about 25 years of legislation available electronically, and then there's potential to do a backfile conversion of some paper documents to electronic later, and build them and a model that they can, so that creates a RAG repository. And then we've got the domain-specific language model layered on it with an agent where you can start to interrogate that legislation. Do we have a legislation about this? Show it to me, send me the link. Help me draft a legislation that amends this to include, these points. Yeah, and it can include data on how did this legislation pass? What were the vote? What was the time frame? Who was the leader? So a lot of intelligence about how to make that process more efficient. Behind that is saving taxpayer money, making them more efficient, and getting closer and closer to passing legislation that matches their needs, representing them more accurately. So that's one of the cases we've been thinking about, or that we've been working on. The other that I can share with you is we have a large customer, a financial services customer, that uses our platform primarily for claims processing. So somebody sends a dispute claim in, a highly regulated process, one that they're kind of incented to take their time on, though. So if they receive it by mail, they get a little bit more time than if it was received electronically, or if there's ancillary documents or information that needs to be submitted with the claim. And we are helping them. We've helped them automate that process over many years, but now they have many years of data of what claims are addressed, which are resolved in the favor of the consumer, which are resolved in favor of the company, what are the indicators of fraudulent claims, what are ones that an agent can potentially process. We've also helped them roll in the phone calls that come in about specific claims. So if they're talking to an individual, that recording gets added into the language model so they can interact with that, and that can move forward with their case, where before this was like a separate file. The employee would have to open it and play it and listen to it. Now that's all converted to text, and it's right in the same interface when the employee is interacting with a consumer on the claim. And now we are getting into that layer of real fraud prevention, predictive analytics, workflow balancing. And it's also not just workflow balancing, but load balancing in their infrastructure as well. So anyway, that's a lot of detail for efficiency in a workflow process. This is the process that they've invested the most money in because it's the most highly regulated. So if they're not following the process, the fines are very heavy, and they've suffered that before. So this is just how we're tightening it up for them and giving them that ROI. So if they can simply balance the load across their geographic locations, that's a cost saver. If they are predicting fraud sooner, that goes to a special queue, to a more highly trained agent, that's a cost saver. And if they can resolve claims more quickly, then they keep that customer happier longer, and there's more potential to gain wallet share.
That's awesome. I love the idea of government using AI to improve efficiency. That's for sure.
Yeah. So it's exciting to do that kind of stuff too. It's something in our organization. I came back from a trade show, having met that director of IT, brought it back to the technical team, and they're like, "Yep, we have all the pieces. We can build you a demo." We get the account executive involved. It was really quick, but it's that kind of stuff also that creates a lot of energy and connective tissue for us in our organization. Now we're working on AI projects together too.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to get into the next topic, which is tech stack. This is something we ask all the guests on Deconstructing Data, which is, what are some of your favorite tools in your tech stack?
I think I kind of shorted this answer and talked about them a little bit previously, but so we are a HubSpot. Marketing runs on HubSpot automation here. Our marketing automation runs on HubSpot. That's how I meant to say it. So I like their AI agent. They have kind of a co-pilot agent where you can start to ask it questions about particular customers. So that's really improved our account-based marketing. What is Costco looking at on our website? How is Wells Fargo interacting with us? When was the last time somebody contacted Experian. Those are the kind of questions we can ask it and get real information very quickly. So that allows us to enable sales better by knowing what their account strategy goals are and seeing how we're aligning our content and our outreach to that. That's been great. Like I said, I love Descripted. I love Sales Speak AI. Those are the primary things I think that have been pretty exciting right now. Good or bad, we use Microsoft Dynamics as our CRM. So that's been a little bit, it's getting better all the time. And I do also think that Copilot in Dynamics is performing better than I thought. The tough part there is, I think because we're just cautious about hallucinations, the only way to know if those answers are correct is to do that research yourself. And then that takes a while. Yeah, but those are our primary tools right now. And they're, again, we're really focused on pushing them to their limits and making sure we're getting everything we can out of those investments.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, some of those that you mentioned along the way were new ones that we heard other people suggest as well. So appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely hear HubSpot a lot, but
Yeah.
I'm curious, since we've talked so much about AI, what's your favorite AI?
You know what? I'm pretty, I use one of those aggregators, so you can try all the models together. And I kind of bounce between just ChatGPT and Claude, depending on the tone I want and depending on if I want if I want outside help, like, hey, look at this website, compare it to this, help me collect research-based stuff. I find Chat a little bit better because it'll expand out of its container. But I kind of like the tone of Claude a little bit better. So that's where we focused our training on our voice.
I love that.
Same here. I use Claude a lot.
Yeah.
I use Claude and I use ChatGPT just a little here and there, but Grok does a good job actually of scraping websites.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, so that's better for that, I think. And then I use Julius AI for just data manipulation.
Okay, that's good to know. The one thing I have seen with ChatGPT lately is that data scraping. It'll say, like, here's the link, or would you like me to put that in the CSV for you? And then you'll get stuck in an endless loop because it can't scrape the site that it's referring to.
Yeah.
So you were like, okay, don't ask me if I want it if you can't give it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Grok does a pretty good job of that. We got a question from David Wellborn asking, which aggregator do you use?
Oh, let me tell you real quick. Hold on.
We use OpenRouter.
ChatHub.
Okay.
ChatHub. Okay. Yeah. So ChatHub. Yeah. So OpenRouter is more for he is more programming related activities. But yeah, can't really chat with it, but it integrates really well with anything.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
What's cool about OpenRouter is it integrates with everything, and you can choose which model you want on the fly, like via API.
Oh, that's awesome.
You can just say, okay, well, I want to do this action with this model, and then you can send it another API call doing some other action and specify a different model to use, or you can tell it to choose whichever model's readily available, and it'll choose the fastest one.
I'll try that out. Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
nice. Good to know. Thank you so much.
I'll give David Wellborn credit there, because he did.
Yeah.
He did turn me on to OpenRouter because I didn't know about it. So
Nice.
He originally told me about it.
Nice. Well, David, plug in the comments. Let us know some other tools that are good that we should be using.
Yeah.
But in closing, Marni, would you like to let listeners know how they could reach you after the show?
Yes, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. That's kind of my primary place. And then you can please visit imagesourceinc.com and learn more about our solutions with AI and helping state and local governments, other organizations improve their business processes. And we call ourselves process innovators. So you can come and see how we do it. And maybe there's a match for us to work together.
Nice.
That's awesome. Thanks, Marni. This has been a great conversation. We're so glad you joined us on the show.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Jesse close it out for us.
And that I will do. Oh, wait, before I do, let me just put up on the screen. We got one more comment from David Wellborn. He says, GitHub Copilot works too. So those are two more folks might want to check out. But I'm going to put up a QR code for anyone watching on video. And if you are on podcast, you can simply go over to bdex.com and click on Talk to an Expert to see what I'm talking about. But we want to invite you to get powered by BDEX. So BDEX's industry-leading identity graph is the trusted foundation powering some of the top ad tech and MarTech platforms across the ecosystem. So our comprehensive identity resolution drives results across every channel, from precision, ad targeting, and website visitor retargeting to direct mail campaigns, lead generation, and turning your anonymous website traffic into actionable customer insight. So whether you're looking to enhance targeting, you want to be a little more accurate there, or you want to recover your abandoned carts, scale lead generation efforts, or maximize performance across digital and offline channels, BDEX delivers the most accurate identity resolution in the industry. So we are eliminating bots and all the bad data that you are wasting your money on and your marketing budget. So we want to help you refine that data with verified audiences that are going to drive measurable ROI. So just join all the leading platforms. You can find them over on our website, bdex.com. And, we'd love to help you power your success as well. So again, thanks for joining Deconstructing Data, Marni.
Thanks so much. It was a great conversation, Jesse and David. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.